The first month of 2026 had really interesting and bizarre news stories, from animal attacks to rescued hikers to deaths in nature. Tune in today for January 2026 Nature News. Welcome to Morbid Outdoors, the podcast that ventures deep into the shadows of the wild. Here, we unravel the mysteries of missing persons, explore spine chilling legends, and share the most morbid stories that nature has to offer. From the depths of the dense forests to the highest mountain peaks, we'll uncover the secrets that lie hidden in the great outdoors. Join us as we navigate the eerie, the unexplained, and the terrifying. So if you dare, grab your gear and let's embark on a journey into the unknown. This is Morbid Outdoors. Hello, everybody. My name is Elise, and I'm your host. And I want to apologize if my voice or sounds weird or like I sound like I'm like sick. I'm not sick at all. I just came from a 4 mile hike. And for some reason, sometimes after I hike, I sound like I have a cold. I don't know why this happens. So if you know why, maybe you can tell me. But yeah, I feel totally fine. My voice just is a little rough sounding. So I'm actually recording on the day that this is released, which is January 31st. And I hope that you all had a great January. I hope that really any New Year's resolutions or goals that you had, I hope you're still going strong with them. I have not had a soda in 30 days. One of my resolutions is to give up soft drinks this year. And I'm 30 days in and I'm still going strong. So I feel great. Um, Overall, I have some health goals, and that is one of them. And so, yeah, here's to a healthier and happier 2026. So I know you guys don't really care about my those things. Some of you do, some of you don't. And I also, yeah, I just did a hike and I have some goals in terms of my hiking and everything this year. So I hope that you guys are having success in the new year so far. So today we are going to be discussing the nature news from this month. Now, starting off right out of the gate on January 2nd, I saw headlines about a mountain lion attack. And this is our first headline for this year and this month. And it came on January 2nd, right out of northern Colorado. A mountain lion attack in northern Colorado marked the state's first fatal encounter with the animal in more than 2 decades. According to Colorado Parks and Wildlife, hikers on the Crozier Mountain Trail in an unincorporated Larimer County um, these hikers reported seeing a mountain lion near a person lying on the ground at around 12:15 p.m. on Thursday, January 2nd. The hikers threw rocks to scare the animal away, and then they went in to help this person that was lying on the ground. One of the witnesses, who was a doctor, did not find a pulse, unfortunately. Now, sorry, I don't know what happened with my mic. The woman who is believed to have been hiking alone, obviously, she was found alone. She was pronounced dead at the scene. Now, this county coroner's office identified her as a 46-year-old woman from Fort Collins, Colorado, and her cause of death was ruled as asphyxia due to external neck compression. And if I'm not a medical, I'm not a doctor, coroner, but basically she died from the mountain lion pressing on her neck, so she couldn't breathe. And the Colorado Parks and Wildlife said that, this was consistent with a mountain lion attack, though investigators at the time had not confirmed whether one or more animals were involved. The coroner's office confirmed her death was due to a fatal mountain lion attack. So honestly, ever since that one man and Idaho, I think it was last year, or maybe it was 2024. In October, basically, he was found, and initially, they said it was a bear attack. This bear attacked and killed him in his tent. And then come to find out it was not an animal attack. He was axed to death by another person. Anytime I see animal attacks that was the instant like bam, that's what happened here. I'm always a little bit like leery of is that true or is it not? Because really anything can happen outside. And yes, animal attacks happen, but they are way less common than another human attacking someone else. So, but I know with this story specifically, it was a mountain lion attack. So, state policy in Colorado actually requires wildlife involved in attacks on humans to be euthanized for public safety. I have very mixed feelings about this policy because a lot of states have the same policy. So, Colorado Parks and Wildlife, they launched an extensive search with help from local law enforcement, firefighters, and a wildlife biologist that was conducting serial surveys and dogs, to track the mountain lion down so that they could euthanize it. There was one mountain lion that was located at the scene, and this mountain lion was shot and later euthanized after fleeing. Now, interestingly enough, a second mountain lion was found nearby and was also euthanized. They were planning to do necropsies of these animals to test for disease and any presence of human DNA. So, Colorado actually has a lot of mountain lions. About 3,800 to 4,400 of these animals are estimated to live within Colorado's state lines. And these are classified as a big game species in the state and they can be hunted. Now, mountain lion attacks on humans in Colorado are very, very rare. Colorado Parks and Wildlife says it has recorded 28 attacks since 1990, with the last fatal incident occurring in 1999 when a 3-year-old child was killed. Officials described the area as remote and heavily wooded, noting that mountain lions are more visible during winter months as they follow deer and elk to these lower elevations. So, basically, a safety tip I can give to you for hiking when there's mountain lions around or possibly around is to make noise, appear larger than the lion, and slowly back away if you encounter one. And of course, if you hike with a dog, please, please, please always keep it on a leash, not just for the wildlife, but also for other people and other pets. So, never ever run when a mountain lion is around. They are big cats and they have that predatory instinct to chase something that is running. So, that is just a reminder about mountain lions. Now going over to Brazil. This was a kind of I don't know if I'd call it a miracle, but it's a feel-good story. A 19-year-old went hiking with a friend like on New Year's Eve day. And these kids, I say kids, I know they're like technically they're adults, but let's be real, 19-year-olds are kids. So these kids went hiking and they were at a pretty high elevation and this one child kid person, adult, um, he became ill, and together, they reached the summit by, like, 4 AM local time on Thursday, January 1st. So, went hiking late on on December 31st, and then ended up summiting a pretty tall mountain, the next day, technically. So about 2 hours later, these friends decided to descend the mountain, and basically, someone got sick and separated from the other hikers. This is extremely scary because it's dark, it is cold, and it's really not ideal hiking time. 4 AM descending a mountain is not ideal. So neither his group nor the group that descended later from this mountain saw Tomas. They attempted to find him, and he did not have a cell phone on him, and they could not find him. So by 1:45 PM that afternoon, a rescue team began searching for Tomas, which was the missing hiker. The search team quickly expanded to include other search and rescue professionals, mountaineers, and an aircraft with thermal imaging. And I want to apologize. This was like translated from, I, I think, Spanish or Portuguese. So some of the wording might be not super great. So this kid, this 19-year-old, he walked more than 12 miles to safety. On Monday, January 5th, Tomas was discovered safe after he'd vanished on Pico Parana, one of the highest peaks in the country. So when he when he got in contact with his parents, he said, quote, "My body is covered in bruises. I have several scrapes. I can't see because I lost my glasses, but I'm okay." And so this was, a really not great situation that turned out to be okay in this instance. I'm glad that this guy survived. I mean, he was out there for 4 days going 12 miles to safety, and he was obviously he was making it, you know? So I'm really glad that that had a happy ending, but they don't always have happy endings when people go missing, as you know. Again, safety tip for you. Don't separate from a group if you can, and always have a satellite beacon on you. Really, that's really what's going to save your life. And in fact, we have a story later on in this episode about how a Garmin did save someone's life. So now out of California, I saw another news story of another 19-year-old being rescued, but this time in California. At 2:30 a.m. local time on Saturday, January 3rd, Humboldt County deputies said they got a notification from the California Office of Emergency Services about a Garmin SOS activation ping from a male hiker who was last known to be in the Bald Hills area near the Redwood Creek Trail. Now, I have one of these Garmin SOS devices. Called an inReach. And I have this because it could save my life. And that is exactly what happened in this situation. So, the department explained that when a Garmin SOS is activated, the device transmits an emergency alert and GPS location via satellite to the Garmin International Emergency Response Coordination Center. That is a mouthful, which then coordinates with local and state emergency agencies to initiate a rescue response. So, the hiker's possession and activation of this Garmin was a critical component that aided in his rescue. After receiving the notification, a rescue team was deployed along with canine units and began searching the area with the help of a drone. And about 7 hours later, at 9:38 a.m., this 19-year-old hiker was located. When he was rescued, he was already showing signs of hypothermia. And after being brought to safety, emergency medical personnel took the hiker to a local hospital where he received treatment. And this is another reminder that if you ever need rescued or are on a rescue operation, but I think more people need rescued than actually volunteer on these rescue teams. Rescue does not come fast. I think every situation is different, but it took 7 hours to rescue this hiker. And they knew where he was, exactly where he was, and they knew kind of the situation. So imagine when searchers and rescuers are looking for people off the trail that they have no idea where they're at. Another safety tip, if you are lost or get off the trail, stay put. That is like the golden rule of being outside and hiking if you get lost is to stay put. Now over to Utah for two news stories that really shook me this month. So I think it was a Friday, January 9th, and I'm going through a drive through with my colleague. We're on lunch break, and I see a news article that just makes my heart drop. On January, I think 8th or 9th, maybe it was, I saw a news article about two bodies being found in Canyonlands National Park. So, a mother and her 6-year-old son from Colorado were found dead in Canyonlands National Park's Island in the Sky District. Now, immediately you start thinking of the possibilities of what this could be. Basically, there was a car, a vehicle, that was reported as suspicious to rangers. Now, this investigators are saying is a murder suicide. Basically, if you've been to Canyonlands or seen pictures and you know what Schaefer Trail is, it's not really a hiking trail, it's a road, but it's the really windy, zigzag, red, dirt road that looks so scary to drive on. I would never do it. Now, these people, this mother and son duo, they entered the park around 4 a.m. on a Wednesday, and then their bodies were discovered the following Thursday. The woman was found outside of her vehicle, and the boy was found inside, appearing unresponsive. When investigators got there, when, help arrived because no one really knew what the situation was when a suspicious vehicle was initially called in, both individuals were deceased. So they're not releasing names or anything like that in this case out of respect, but these two individuals had been reported missing in Colorado by the father. And then out of Zion National Park, for everybody that's not from Utah, Zion is not how you say it, apparently. When I first moved here, I was talking about Zion National Park, and my husband's aunt corrected me and said it's Zion like lion. So if you want to sound like you know what you're talking about and you want to sound like a local, you will call it Zion National Park, not Zion. Now, do I correct other people when they say Zion? No, because to me, it really doesn't matter. But if someone asks me like the right way to say it, I'll say, this is what I was told. So I was told it's Zion National Park. And this story that I'm gonna talk about today is just I mean, happy ending, nobody died. But also these things shouldn't really happen with all the technology and information that we have today. So in Yankee Doodle Canyon, which is such a fun name, there were a lot of rescues that had to be completed, and this happened not too long ago in Zion National Park. So let's talk about it. So, at about 4 p.m. on a Saturday, the Washington County Sheriff's Office was alerted of people lost in a canyon, in a slot canyon. A separate group of hikers in the canyon heard yelling coming from below, like in the slot area of this canyon. And these people were lost. And so they were able to alert others, and other hikers called in crews for help, and the sheriff's office found a group of 10 lost hikers. Deputies said that when the hikers were located, they were cold, hungry, and in need of help. A search team and rescue hikers were able to guide 8 of the 10 out of the canyon, while another two were airlifted by helicopter out of the area because they were actually showing pretty severe signs of hypothermia. Now, these people, the rescuers, were assisting the hikers back to their trailhead, but on their way out, they found 5 more hikers who needed to be guided out. So 15 sorry, my mic did a weird thing again. So 15 hikers that had to be rescued in one afternoon in Zion National Park. All hikers reportedly denied medical transportation when they arrived at the trailhead, so I'm gonna assume they were offered to go get checked out at the local hospital, and they said no, that they were fine. Now, I can't even believe it, honestly, because we have so many things. We have maps, we have the internet, we have podcasts, we have so many things, so much technology and information that nowadays you are very rarely going in to explore totally uncharted and unknown territory in the outdoors, especially in a national park or around a national park. And, these things shouldn't happen. So, really, maps, knowing where you're going, and always having a map and compass on you could save your life. Now, the Sergeant Alfred said that the shadows and the deep areas of Yankee Doodle Canyon can get quite cold at all times except high noon. And without proper prep in the winter, even one as mild as what we have this year in Utah, we're having a very mild winter. Hypothermia is always a concern. So all of the hikers were rescued, were checked for hypothermia, but were released at the scene. Again, guys, if you're going to go outside and recreate, especially in a large group, please make sure at least one person knows what the hell they're doing out there. Because again, these are the rescuers are putting their day and their time aside to save your ass. So, again, I just want to say it again because I can't. Safety is such a thing in the outdoors. Your safety is your own responsibility when you are recreating outdoors. Going up to Mount Rainier National Park, there were 2 deaths, that happened in mid-January. 2 missing climbers in Mount Rainier National Park were found dead by search and rescue crews on a Tuesday. So what happened is that park rangers began an inquiry on January 18th after noticing, these overdue climbing permits. Emergency contacts reported that the climbers had not been in contact with them since the previous day, January 17th. So rangers started to investigate and they found these climbers' vehicles in the Paradise parking lot. If you know, we've talked about Paradise before. It's extremely popular in Mount Rainier National Park. Searchers using spotting equipment observed 2 non-moving figures near Wilson Glacier the same day. However, adverse weather conditions on January 19th prevented aviation resources from accessing the area. Ground teams reached the location on January 20th and confirmed the presence of 2 bodies at approximately 9,600 feet in elevation. That's all I could find on that. I didn't find like who they were or what the cause of death was, unfortunately. So that happened in Mount Rainier, and now another hiker has died while attempting to summit the highest peak in the contiguous US, which is in California. This is the third reported death on Mount Whitney just this season. This hiker was reported missing after failing to descend the mountain and reunite with a hiking companion who had decided the prior afternoon to turn around due to safety concerns. Again, do not ever separate from a group. And if someone in your group says, hey, this is not safe, we shouldn't do it, always, always err on the side of caution because coming home after an adventure is more important than the adventure itself. The hiker was later found dead, and the next day, because he decided to continue onward alone. A rescue team located the hiker during an aerial search, recovering the body from the north face of Mount Whitney, below the notorious Final 400 stretch, which is a dangerously steep chute along the route that is particularly challenging to navigate in the winter months. Search and rescue officials did not release the identity of this hiker, but the team did use the tragedy to remind hikers of the inherent dangers of climbing Mount Whitney or any other steep peak this time of year in the winter. See, these things can be avoided. I mean, really, they can. There are so many different precautions you have to take if you're going to recreate outside during the winter months. And I think people just forget about it, especially if it's like a mild winter. But winter can still be dangerous to be climbing and hiking, and anything can happen at any point in time. That's a reason why I personally don't go out as much in the winter because I'm not experienced enough in hiking in snow because I grew up in Arkansas where it doesn't really snow that much. And I really am scared of avalanches and things like that. So just know the dangers before you go out and try to be as prepared as you can, especially with carrying a personal locator beacon and having all of these extra safety things in place for yourself. So, January was full of a lot of interesting stories from our wild places. There's lessons to be learned in all of these headlines. And I really hope that the next time you go outside, you think twice about safety because we all, including me, can get too comfortable in the outdoors. And that is when mistakes happen that can be fatal. As always, recreate responsibly and remember, sometimes the great outdoors aren't always great. Thanks for listening to Morbid Outdoors. If you're enjoying what you're hearing, make sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platform. It's free, easy, and it helps us out immensely. When you subscribe, you get updates on our latest episodes, and it also boosts our visibility. making it easier for other curious souls to find us. Another great way to support Morbid Outdoors is by leaving us a review. Whether you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen, a quick review helps us know what you love about the show. You can also join us on Patreon for early and ad free content. Find us on Instagram and Facebook at Morbid Outdoors Podcast. You can email us case suggestions and your campfire stories at morbidoutdoorspodcast@gmail.com. Thanks so much for the support, and I'll see you next time.